My name is Ethan, and for 6 months, I lived with a woman who looked like my wife, spoke like my wife, but was hiding something from me every single day. It started small, a phone she suddenly kept face down on the counter, late replies to my texts, girls' nights that ran until 2 in the morning. I told myself I was overthinking it. We had been married for 5 years, and I trusted Sarah more than I trusted myself. But trust, once you start questioning it, has a way of unraveling thread by thread until there's nothing left holding it together. The lies started getting bigger. She told me she was staying late at the office for a big project, but when I called her workplace to drop off something she forgot, her coworker told me she had left hours earlier. She said she was having dinner with her sister, but her sister texted me that same night asking if I wanted to grab pizza since Sarah had canceled on her. Every lie was small enough to dismiss on its own, but together they formed a pattern I could no longer ignore, no matter how badly I wanted to believe in the woman I married. One night, I finally confronted her, laying out every inconsistency I had quietly collected over the months. I expected tears, an apology, maybe even a confession. Instead, Sarah's face turned cold in a way I had never seen before. She told me I was being paranoid and controlling, that a wife doesn't owe her husband an hourly report of her life. The conversation spiraled into our worst fight ever, ending with her sleeping in the guest room and me lying awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering how a marriage could feel so foreign overnight. 2 weeks later, I came home to find divorce papers sitting on the kitchen counter, already signed on her end. No warning conversation, no attempt to fix things, just papers waiting for my signature like a business transaction. I remember standing there in stunned silence, the ice from the freezer machine the only sound in the house. I asked her why, and all she said was that she needed a life she couldn't have with me anymore. She wouldn't look me in the eye when she said it, which told me there was more to the story than she was willing to share. I didn't sign the papers right away. I spent days trying to understand what I had done wrong, replaying our entire relationship, searching for the moment everything started falling apart. Friends told me to just let her go, that some marriages simply run their course. But something about the timing, the sudden coldness, the unexplained absences, felt like there was a chapter of the story I wasn't being told. Still, with no proof and no willingness from her to talk, I eventually signed the papers just to stop the bleeding of a relationship that clearly wasn't coming back. The divorce was finalized quietly. Sarah moved out within a month, taking only what she needed, leaving behind photos, shared memories, and a house that suddenly felt twice as empty. I threw myself into work and slowly, painfully, started building a life on my own again. I heard through mutual friends that she had moved to a different city about a year later, but beyond that, I made a conscious effort to stop tracking her life. Healing, I realized, required me to stop searching for answers in a story that had already ended without my consent. Almost 3 years passed. I had built a quiet, stable life, new job, new apartment, a version of peace I never thought I'd find again after everything fell apart. Then one evening, there was a knock at my door I never expected. It was Sarah, standing there nervously, looking older, more tired, carrying an expression I hadn't seen on her since the early days of our marriage. Vulnerability without any walls up. She asked if she could come in and talk, saying there was something she owed me after 3 years of silence. I let her in, more out of curiosity than anything else. We sat across from each other, the same living room where we once shared holidays and laughter now filled with an uncomfortable, heavy silence. Sarah took a deep breath and told me the truth she had buried for years. During those final months of our marriage, she had been secretly caring for her mother, who had been diagnosed with early-stage dementia and was terrified of anyone finding out, including me. The late nights, the secrecy, the distance, all of it traced back to appointments and caregiving she had hidden out of fear and shame. She explained that her mother had begged her not to tell anyone, afraid of being seen as a burden, afraid of losing her independence the moment people knew the truth. Sarah, caught between protecting her mother's wishes and being honest with me, chose secrecy, and it slowly poisoned our marriage from the inside. She said the divorce wasn't really about not loving me anymore. It was about not being able to carry the weight of that secret while also being honest in our relationship, so she chose to end things rather than keep lying to my face every day. I sat there absorbing everything, the anger I had carried for years now tangled with a strange, aching empathy. Part of me wished she had trusted me enough to share the burden instead of carrying it alone and letting our marriage collapse under the pressure. But another part of me understood the impossible position she had been in, caught between her mother's fear and her husband's trust, unable to fully honor either. She told me her mother had passed away just 8 months earlier, and dealing with that loss had finally given her the courage to face me and tell the truth. I asked her why she waited 3 years to tell me, and she said the guilt of the divorce, combined with the grief of losing her mother, made it impossible to face me any sooner. She needed time to heal enough to even say the words out loud. I could see it in her eyes. This wasn't a woman trying to win me back or rewrite history. This was someone finally unburdening herself of a secret that had cost her a marriage and years of quiet suffering she never allowed anyone to see. We talked for hours that night, longer than we had in the final months of our marriage combined. It wasn't about reconciliation. Too much had changed. Too many years had passed for either of us to pretend we could simply pick up where we left off. But it was about closure, about finally understanding the missing pieces of a story that had haunted me for 3 years. When she left that night, there were no promises of getting back together. Just a quiet, mutual respect neither of us had been able to offer each other back when our marriage was ending. In the months that followed, Sarah and I stayed in occasional contact, not as husband and wife, but as two people who had survived something painful together and come out the other side with a strange kind of peace. I eventually met someone new, someone I could build honest communication with from day one, something I now understood was the real foundation I had been missing all along. Sarah, too, seemed to be slowly rebuilding her life, no longer carrying the secret that had quietly destroyed the life she once had with me. Looking back, I don't think Sarah's silence was born from malice. It was born from fear, grief, and an impossible situation she didn't know how to navigate honestly. That doesn't erase the pain of those months, or the confusion of a divorce that came without explanation. But it taught me something I carry into every relationship since. Secrets, even ones meant to protect someone, have a way of destroying the very things we're trying to save. Sometimes the truth takes years to arrive, but when it finally does, it changes the entire meaning of the story you thought you already knew.